Okay, Brian Sherman is going to be our moderator for our next panel, and he serves as the Chief Innovation Officer for the Arizona Commerce Authority. Mr. Sherman approaches economic development as a social entrepreneur, startup evangelist, and bureaucracy hacker, my bad. He believes human-inspired, market-leveraged, data-driven entrepreneurship can create a better world. His work is focused on public sector strategy, technology-based economic development, entrepreneurship, early-stage capital formation, and technology commercialization, as well as innovation in public policy, strategy, and finance. Mr. Sherman is a 20-plus year public service veteran serving in executive positions at the Arizona Technology Council, Arizona State University, the town of Gilbert, the state of Arizona, and on the founding team of the Arizona Commerce Authority. Mr. Sherman has a bachelor's degree in Geography and Geographic Information Systems and an MBA from the W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State University. Brian is being joined on stage by Ayushi Patel, Joe Halsey, and Lauren Fitzpatrick Shannels. Please welcome them to the stage.
Thanks so much, Jess. Come on up, guys. And I don't see, is Joe? Oh, Joe's right behind me. Pardon me. I was hoping I'd get to sit on the bike for this. Did you roll the bike away? Make yourselves comfortable, guys. I don't think that was exactly by mistake, Jess. I do feel like a bureaucracy broker many days in my job. But I like to think of myself as a bureaucracy hacker. Yeah, I do too. It's the nature of the job. Well, first off, thrilled to be here. Congrats to Liz and the whole 10 West team for a great event and a great week. The Arizona Commerce Authority is thrilled to once again be the presenting sponsor and more importantly a partner throughout the year with Startup Tucson and 10 West. So we're thrilled to be here. It's my privilege at the ACA to lead the innovation team. And our mission in economic development with the innovation team is to address foundational areas in our economy to make sure that we can maintain or accelerate our economic development momentum. And we've had tremendous momentum. So one of the things that is a privilege to work on is our startup community. And I've been at the ACA, I was on the founding team, and a couple of programs that many of you are very familiar with, I expect, are the Arizona Innovation Challenge, and we have 3 recent winners of the Innovation Challenge here to join us. They are the startup superstars. And, yep, little applause would be great. When you win the Innovation Challenge, you enter into the Venture Ready Accelerator. That's another program. We've got some other programs, virtual accelerators, so a number of things that we do to help develop the startup community, and none of those are possible without an army of volunteers and all of our partners. So the lights are kind of bright up here, but I'm going to ask, I know there are a number of Innovation Challenge evaluators, judges out there. Can you raise your hands? I was just sitting with one. I know there are several. Thank you so much for what you've done over the years, for 12 years now. Mentors, entrepreneurs in residence, when you move into the Venture Ready Accelerator, we do our best to find an experienced serial entrepreneur or someone with deep industry experience that's a good match with our founders. And those folks you guys are going to tell a little bit more about that, but they extensive amount of time and effort into helping these companies scale. So thanks to any EIRs in the audience. I can't see. Hopefully there's some hands up. I know we have a number of them that are really dedicated here in Tucson, and I think we've got some from Phoenix as well. So I'm grateful for everyone that volunteers their time. So I talk about those programs just to set the stage because really we want to hear from these folks. But we've been running our platform programs and working with many of you, our partner organizations, for about 12 years now. And we're proud of what's happening in Arizona. All the assets are in place, but we believe that we're at an inflection point. And so we are working on, with our partners, a strategic plan that is really focused on our startup community across the state And the themes that we're exploring are integration and scale. And so a little bit about those. There are so many programs, some of them have been around for a while, some new ones coming online all the time. You've heard several times just today alone that we're proud in Arizona of generosity. Many people were not born in Arizona. Many move here, and so many of you have experienced, you come here and it's a very easy place to get integrated. Everyone is very generous with making recommendations on programs, referrals to great people. And sometimes we find that we are loving our founders to death a little bit. So sometimes when you're starting a company and you really have to focus on that business, it can not be so helpful to have so many recommendations and kind of be drowning in what do I do next. And so we're really exploring the idea of a tighter integration with our partners so we can curate that experience better, so we can help founders get the help that they need at the right time. And the good news is we're all working so closely together that we're going to pull this off rather quickly. The other theme is scale. Arizona has all the assets in place to be, it's a great startup community. It can be so much greater. I believe that we're still punching way below our weight here. And so part of this plan is figuring out how to scale. So selfishly, I'm going to ask some questions of our guests here around those themes so that we can all consider how can we do what we're doing better. And there's no better way to do that than to ask our customers and to get a better sense for how we have helped. And you're welcome to talk about the things that have worked really well, certainly. But I would ask you to be really candid about things that could be done better. So before we do that, let's do some brief introductions, and we'll start at the other end. We'll start with Ayushi, and just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about, in your case, Sensen, a little bit about your company.
I was trying to sit on this end, so you'd start with Joe, but it turns out that plan has spoiled. So, well, hey everybody, very excited to be part of this panel. I'm Ayushi Patel, co-founder and CEO of Sensen. Sensen was started by Trevor, Andy, and myself with one mission to make brain screening just as easy and accessible as recording an ECG on your Apple Watch. So we have this small device that doctors or sports trainers can use to collect brain data. I actually have one with me. You can't have a small device and not take it everywhere. So here's the device, you put it on the head, move it around like a stethoscope, and it gets the data that you need. So the startup's taken a shape of its own, gone through an incredible journey. Honor Health is one of our strategic partners, which actually brought us from California to Arizona, and I'm happy to talk about that as well. And now we're working towards FDA and commercializing, and hopefully first in Arizona. So,
thank you. Lauren.
Hi, everyone. I am Lauren Fitzpatrick Shanks. I'm the founder and CEO of Keep Wool. Keep Wool stands for Keep Wondering Out Loud. We are a team effectiveness platform. We focus on improving team collaboration, team dynamics, but also human connectivity within those organizations, and we do this using a 3-step process that's based on gamification. So we have an experience, reflect, and grow model, which combines relationship development, people analytics, and then growth by utilizing session outcomes to deliver just-in-time curated content and action plans to help the teams in meeting their goals. And I'm very excited to be here today and to be a part of this panel, but this is my first time at 10 West, so happy to be out here. It's very colorful.
Thanks, Lauren.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Halsey. First, let me thank Brian and the ACA. Really appreciate everything you guys have ever done for us. I truly feel like I'm a better entrepreneur and CEO for my company and for the people that work with us. So I really appreciate your time. But I'm really humbled and honored to be on the panel today with these two fine young ladies here, excellent CEOs, excellent network that I can go to with any problem or discuss any kind of aspects in my company or career. I'm the co-founder of Edgify. We've created a simple fintech with a mobile payment solution that helps those who saved into 529 college savings plans to better utilize those funds. And it's humbling to understand how this community, both in Tucson and Phoenix, comes together to support somebody like us, who can where we can reach out and say, I'm proud of the company we built, but I'm proud to have everyone together as we're building this journey, as we're going through this journey and building this company.
They're all being very humble. They're very accomplished individuals, aside from the business they've started. So we'll dig into that a little bit. But so let's stay here with Joe. What's your Arizona story? How did Edufy start in Arizona? Perhaps how did you get to Arizona? Why start it here? And then maybe tell us how what's your point of entry? If it was the Innovation Challenge, how did you find us? How did we find you? I'm not sure. I don't know that story.
Sure, absolutely. I spent 20 years in North Dakota and Minnesota, and I got tired of the cold. So I said, hey, where's the best place to go? And Arizona was it. That's kind of really, that's the truth of the story. There's a little bit of mix into that. There's the Air Force. There's things like that come about. But I came down in 2016, or 2013 actually, and I was the COO of a large company here in Phoenix. And I wanted to do something different. So I started my own business, and I sold that business or exited out of it in 2019, right before COVID hit. And I remember distinctly talking to a recruiter and say, what's my next thing I'm going to do? And he goes, I'm going to give you one name, Tom Blondie. So I met with Tom over coffee. We had several rounds of golf together. And he said, Joe, you want to be an EIR? You should do this, get together part of this community. And I said, Tom, I'm not ready to do that. I need more experience. He goes, but the ACA has a program coming up that I think you'd be really ready for. And I said, well, don't I need a company? And he goes, but I'm going to introduce you to your partner. You just don't know it yet. And so he did. Fast forwarded, I met my business partner, Skyler. He lives out in San Francisco, and that's very unfortunate for him. But I keep trying to get him to move over to Arizona, and he keeps saying maybe someday. But we developed this great partnership, and it was very interesting. Our very first idea that we had together was to do funding, or not funding, but actually pay for grades to help college students earn that A. And that's still part of our future, but we actually came across by accident that we both had 529 experience. And once we started talking about that, we realized that there was so much more that we could do to help that industry along. And so that's how I came to Arizona. That's how I started this company with my business partner, and that's how I got introduced to the ACA.
We play a game at a number of our networking events. It's not how close you are to Kevin Bacon, 6 degrees. Everyone, whether you know it or not, is no more than 3 degrees of separation from Tom Blondie. So we go around the room and vet that out a little bit. It's kind of fun. Lauren, what's your Arizona story?
Yeah, my Arizona story. So the pay for grades, though, my dad did that. It works, so get that going. My Arizona story, I actually came here in 2016, so I haven't been here that long, about 7 years. And I worked at 5 Fortune 500 companies. So my background's in aerospace engineering, and my jobs took me to different locations. So I moved here from Maryland. I actually started ideation of my company back in 2018. And I didn't know anything about ACA or anything at that point. And by the time that we pivoted the company towards a tech company, we got into Techstars last year, so 2022, and we got our first venture capitalist investors, and both were located in California and in New York. But it was one of our California investors, so New Fund Ventures, that actually introduced me to all of the Arizona scene. So they sent the application for us to apply to the AIC, so Arizona Innovation Challenge. They also sent the application to apply into Venture Madness. So had very great investors, but also mentors just tapping into the scene of this area. But I think that we have some new fund members out here because they're like a venture or angel investor group, but they have an annual venture fund. And so that's kind of how I got introduced, and I got thrown into this world this year. I think I did all the Arizona things that you can do this year and was a part of all the programs. But yeah, I feel like I've known Tom for about 10 years now, so it's very personable. But yeah, that's my Arizona story.
Thanks, Lauren. Ayushi, what's your Tom Blondie story?
not a very exciting one, but I feel like we're sitting in descending order of the number of years we've been in Arizona. So I moved earlier this year, so went through my first summer, very proud of it. I think ready for my next one as well. So just a bit of our background. Sensen started in Orange County, California, so not the snowbird population, quite the opposite. And we all went to UCI together, did biomedical engineering, started Sensen, grew it, and last year when we were meeting Honor Health for a product demo and then just discussing a strategic partnership, we got a chance to be here and really experience the city and just the community, how friendly it is. And Arizona itself, I think of it as a startup state, right? Like you guys are also trying to figure out how do we get that inflection point. And for us, that's perfect because as a small business startup, we need that kind of support that's more grassroots level. So in December, last December, we visited again. We're like, hey, this is great. There's so much activity here. Our Honor Health investor actually told us, hey, consider applying to AIC. This will be your fast track way to meeting so many people in the ecosystem and get your jump start. So that's what was one of the things that inspired us to apply. And it's history since then. We've gone through AIC, we've gone through VERTEC program that's also part of the ACA, and just really leverage a lot of resources for an early stage startup like ours.
Great. So when you compete in the AIC, you run through the gauntlet. That's the business plan competition part. When you win, and congratulations again for winning, then you move into the Venture Ready Accelerator, and that's when we work with you intensely for the next year, what we call the performance period. So then you get really close to an entrepreneur in residence, an EIR, and they're charged with helping expand your network and helping you in any way. So can you stay with Ayushi? Can you talk a little bit about that experience? And feel free to talk about Keith, because you got a great one.
Oh, that was my opening statement. So we had Keith Stoneback, and he's an amazing EIR. Like, there's very few people you come across who've accomplished so much in their career and are still very open-minded about different strategies and don't force an opinion on you. They're always about, hey, here's a strategy. Why don't you go talk to a few people and see if it works for you? So it was an incredible experience working with Keith, and just understanding what is the expectation fairly early on, because even though you're going through the process, you're still running your company and there's 15,000 things on your plate. So having a very reliable EIR just set the tone that, hey, here's what we need, here's roughly when we need things by, and here's kind of the rough expectation, so let's work on it together. And then we had already closed our seed round by then, so AIC was a little bit after the seed round for us. And one of the great things was it still kept me in the pitching mode, because once you're done pitching, you take off your fundraising hat and you go put on your work hat. But I was able to switch between both of them and just keep my tempo, if you will, for the fundraising.
How about you, Lauren? What was the experience like for you? And
Yeah, so
recently graduated too. I forgot to mention that. So
we graduated September 28th, so just a little bit over a month ago. For me, just the application portion, like it allowed you to put a business plan together in a nice way, a nice succinct way, and then allowed me to apply for a lot of other grants and applications right after that. And then for me, this was my first pitch live in person since before the pandemic. So that was also nerve-wracking, but ended up being great, and we won one of the slots, so that was fantastic. And then I had the honor of working with Tom Lautenheiser as my EIR. And what was great about it, so this was his first time being an EIR for this program, but he'd done the virtual accelerator as well just before. And there's another member who was a winner of this, Brett, as well, and so he was his mentor EIR before. So I kind of got a twofer, because I got Brett along with me to like help out with things too, and we were passing back notes. So that was fantastic. Another portion of what I really appreciated about the program and kind of my placement with how my EIR was decided. I'm not very sure how you all go about determining who the EIR is going to be for each person. But what was fantastic for me is Tom had just exited a previous company, but is now with Next Advisors, and they're very much focused on human capital management, which is straight in line with what we're doing. And so not only was I having someone helping me with my pitch decks and things like that, but he's helping me with market research. He's sending me new articles. We just talked earlier this week about changes and like a pivot we're making because of the market. And it really allowed me to not only think about, hey, what are we doing from a perspective of fundraising, but also what are we doing for the business and how are we moving the business forward? And it was fantastic because not only had he been a founder, but he had been a CEO. He had been a CEO of public companies before too, so he came with all this knowledge that allowed me to not have to question, like, does he really know? Like, will this work for us? Like, it was a perfect marrying of experience, but also like industry expertise for me. So that was great.
Awesome. Joe, you had a great EIR as well.
I did. Who was that again? My EIR actually was Steve Larson, amazing guy. And it's interesting what you picked up, what you said there was like, how do you pick your EIRs? Because Steve has said this over and over to me. Why am I your EIR? I don't know anything about fintech. I don't know anything about what you guys are doing. But Steve has taught me so much about content, how to develop a story. The fintech world that I'm in is very complex. He actually taught me how to peel back the layers of the onion to make that into a very easy story to tell. And I can relate that actually to my 8-year-old, believe it or not, and with enough time. But so I'm still curious on how you guys do that EIR match because it was perfect. But I do like the ACA. It was, for me, it was a true learning experience. And I mentioned that I came from a larger company, and I had my own company before this, and I thought I knew everything coming in here. It's like, what are you going to tell me? Boy, did I learn a lot. Boy, did I realize that I didn't know nothing. So I'm very appreciative of what I went through.
I appreciate it. Well, so let's shift to challenges that you're still experiencing. And Joe, I'm thinking about, maybe you can start with this, go in any direction you like, but we haven't cracked the nut yet on the Arizona Treasurer's Office, right? We've got an agenda to break into 529 at the state level in Arizona. Why can't we start here? And so there's really no boundaries to the kind of help that, it really depends on what you're trying to do in your business. So maybe that's an example of a challenge, but any major challenge that you're, now you've graduated through Venture Ready, we're gonna have a business relationship for as long as you like. We have a contractual relationship, for the next few years. So we're gonna harass you for reports, and that, that's the bureaucracy broker part of my job. But what kind of challenges, and maybe you can talk a little bit about with the treasurer.
So when I started, my own idea, when I started this company, I thought for sure it was going to be an easy market to pitch to. Pitch to in the terms of the account owners who own these 529 plans, right? I did some smoke tests in marketing and say, hey, I can get my cost of acquisition down to $70. That's amazing. We can do that. It's easy. And as I going through the program, I learned one thing. You get a lot of advice, a lot of advice from different people, and sometimes that advice is conflicting. So I think when it comes to the toughest part is understanding that advice. And I think, Peter, if you're out there in the audience, I'll give him credit for this. He said, take all that advice, put it down on paper, and start to find a pattern. And once you find that pattern, work with your mentor then to understand what the best possible roadmap is. And I think that's something that really stuck with me and really been appreciative of. And I think why I say that is because now one of those advices that I got, or many of the advices I got, is go to B2B and go after the states themselves. And I thought, why in the world would I do that? It's such a long opportunity to go after a state. There's so much bureaucracy, there's so much red tape. And I started doing that, and they welcomed us. They were like, hey, won't you guys come in? We love what you're doing. You guys can help innovate this product. And so, actually, Arizona may not be our first customer, but they may be our second customer. We just looked at New Jersey actually signing a letter. Sorry, I get emotional sometimes. we just looked at New Jersey just signing a letter of intent with us to work with us. So really happy about that.
Nice.
Just a one step forward. What does that mean? Not really a lot. Sometimes, it's crazy. I've been in the Air Force for 8 years. When I come to board meetings, I'm very stoic and very, very driven. But when I get around communities and all the love and all the passion that I feel, it really gets me right here in the heart. I'm the guy that cries at these darn commercials, so. But I'm happy to report that New Jersey will probably be our first client, and I'm really excited about that. And I think Jeffrey, if he's out there listening, you have an opportunity to be our second, and Jeffrey is the state 529 plan provider. But don't do it long, because Illinois and Florida and Alabama is right behind you. So
That's awesome. Love it. Lauren, what are the big challenges you're facing right now that maybe you began to address while you're formally in Venture Ready? Now's your chance to talk about those, and we're gonna ask everyone for ideas about how to help.
Who finds the economy challenging right now? So for us, when we were coming into ACA, our focus for our beachhead customer were CHROs, so Chief Human Resource Officers. And what we got to find out, even over this year, because we actually just completed another program that is a People Tech Partners program. So it's meeting with 250 CPOs of large startups and public companies. And a pattern that we were seeing, and something I had been talking to Tom a lot about just all year, and that we were getting feedback from even during our different panels for Venture Ready, was just the market, like selling to those CHROs, the length of the sales cycle, et cetera. And what's really hard with selling to who we were selling to was that they're a cost center. So they don't bring any profits in, any revenue in. And because of that, they don't have a large discretionary budget. Anything they want to buy, they have to go ask for. And they usually have to go ask a CFO for. And so a recent pivot we made, and that I was talking to Tom about earlier this week, is selling to sales. So CROs, so Chief Revenue Officers, VPs of Sales, as well as heads of sales enablement. And for us, we are a product that's kind of agnostic to an industry. So we are B2B, and we're team effectiveness, so any group of individuals that are working towards a common goal. And so for us, we can land anywhere, and that's why we went to CHROs. But when we were seeing where we're getting the most traction at, where we're making the most impact, and what kind of P&L, so profit and loss centers, we're seeing that impact, sales, engineering, marketing came up. And so we were like, okay, we see the problems in sales, how high turnover is in sales just from company to company, so why don't we land there? And so we actually just launched our commercial product in September. We closed our first 2 contracts. 2 weeks after that, we signed a partnership agreement with Cisco, so a lot has been happening right now. But I would say that was the thing, like the economy and trying to figure out how to deal with this market and buying challenges and finding, well, sales enablement, that's training, that's learning and development, but specifically for sales, it falls in the sales department. They have a budget. We actually get bigger contracts with them than trying to sell to CHRO. So that was something that we talked through with Tom throughout the program, getting the feedback from the panel just to say, hey, where can you narrow in on? So, yeah.
No, that's super helpful for us. Is I think about how our programming is deployed, and not just us, but with our partners. There's still a big gap between early stage companies and when you grow and you're big companies, and we've got structured incentive programs for you. So helping you scale, whether it be sales or other things, is one of the areas that we're really looking at. How can we assist you through that gap? So that's really helpful.
Fantastic. That sounds great.
Ayushi, you shared some ideas with me earlier. Feel free to touch on some of those.
But before I get there, so I think we're the only ones with an actual hardware product. So what Joe said is very true. As you go through the journey of your startup or the program, you'll get lots of advice, and you have to start putting it in buckets that, okay, what is this person's background? What is their experience? Why do they think this is a risk versus that, right? And so that was pattern matching that took quite some time in our early days. But as we kept evolving and understanding, hey, where does this product fit the most? When we talk to doctors, they'll say, hey, can I use it for this? Can I use it for that? Can I have it in my clinic tomorrow? And that's great, but now we have to pick, like, okay, what are the top 3 interests for us? And we do have them, so as we make progress, you guys will be hearing a lot more from Sensen on what the top 3 segments we've picked. But really the big, journey we're going through right now is getting through FDA, right? So we finally have a product that works really well, has collected patient data, we're getting tons of feedback from the early hospital partners we work with. Fun fact, most of our investors are actually either hospitals, physicians, or health systems. So we feel that's one thing we feel very proud about, is being so user focused so that we can tap into that early feedback, understand what the risks are, and start planning for it. So yeah, going through the FDA journey, it's a matter of time and just a lot of effort and documentation. Some days it feels like a lot, some days it feels like not as much. So by mid next year, we're aiming for our clearance, and then we're off to the races with different people. But yeah.
Fantastic. So let's get a future orientation and talk about it. Pick any number of years that you want to reflect on going forward. 3 years from now, 5 years from now. What do your future plans look like, and what kind of help do you anticipate needing? Whether it be around workforce, as you're starting to scale, finding talent is always a challenge. We've got tons of talent here, but just sourcing it can be difficult. If you have really specialized needs there, that can be very hard. So is it capital? What are the kind of things, what are your priorities right now as you're thinking about scaling?
I guess I'm going first. So we actually get very lucky here. So I learned fairly recently, 24% of Arizona's GDP comes from healthcare. One of the big decision factors for us to move to Arizona was you just have such an incredible density of health systems between Honor Health, Banner, Common Spirit, Mayo coming up with that big campus. There's tons of manufacturing hubs that are opening up because of the semiconductor boom. So now we can get small batch manufacturing done, which is one of our goals, is to have the final assembly done at least in Arizona. So close the loop there. And in terms of workforce, it would be, tech is great. I have no qualms with software engineers, but I think we need more people on the hardware side, people who have deep knowledge of semiconductors, analog design, things of that sort. It would be great to tap into that local talent as well. And in terms of just deployment, it's one of the other great things about Arizona, and again, we get lucky here because we're in healthcare, is all of these health systems want to work with each other. And we've just found so much great traction talking to some of these folks that, hey, how can we work with your team? How can we get this out there? And learn about how your system works, because every system's different. They all look similar on face value. Based on zip code, structure, infrastructure, it's completely different. Needs are completely different. So those would be some of our requirements.
One of the things that we're trying to break down silos that we experience, particularly in the hardware side. So one of the big gaps that we think we have in our startup community is we have great corporate partners. We've got great companies in Arizona, some huge ones. The integration, the engagement with the startup community is not where it should be. And so that's one area that we've really started to focus on. That's behind our plug and play partnership. And as you're talking about that, I'm reflecting on access to talent on the hardware side. We've got great hardware engineers here. They tend to be a lot more siloed within their industry. Semiconductor is a classic example. There's not open innovation typically across companies, let alone into adjacent industries, as much as we experience on the software side. So that's great advice too.
I should quickly mention, so one of the great things is the WearTech program with the ACA and the Partnership for Economic Innovation, because it's literally WearTech, so you will have a hardware piece involved. So that brings a lot of people who are working on physical products as well, because ultimately that's what literally touches patients, right? So you need something that can actually facilitate collection of data. And that has been a great source of finding that kind of talent as well. So if anybody's looking for that.
Thanks. Lauren, what's the future look like?
Oh my goodness.
And
I
what do you
will be
need?
very
What kind of help do you need to get there?
Yeah, so I will be very honest when people are like, 3-year plans, 5-year plans. I'm like, I am thinking about next week. So I will have a list of milestones and things, but I can't tell you when they will happen. I'm like, here's the goal. We're going to do all this. There won't be a this. But for the next year, so for 2024, we're very much focused on sales. So like I said, we just finished our commercial product. We're out there selling. Close that partnership that I talked about earlier with Cisco. Right now we have some other opportunities for partnerships. We've also done some expansion outside of North America. And so we're working in Latin America area and also the Philippines. And so we're focused from that perspective of just how do we make sure where's product market fit for us, and then how do we copy and paste from that perspective. We do want, because we're a remote first company and we're located all across the country here. And so what I would like to do is, as we build and grow, because we are raising a small round right now, just a bridge round right now, but come 2025 we'll be raising our next bigger round, and I'd like to get local talent here. So we've been building for the past 2 years remote, and everyone's remote. So that's something that we just brought on a marketing firm here local to Arizona, and they've been fantastic. And so that's kind of my goal.
Can you talk about who it is?
Yeah, it's Makai. They're called Mayakai Creative. And so it's actually... he got the founder of the company got the Creative of the Year award here in Arizona, and he's actually the only Black-owned marketing firm here in Arizona, so biggest one here.
Awesome.
So we've been working with them since October. We actually had an in-house person that didn't work out, and we brought them on. So this past month has been great. My team is very happy because we get stuff done. We're seeing results very fast, so want to continue with doing that and seeing we have our W-2 employees right now, so what other kind of firms that we can bring on that kind of minimize our costs but allow us to grow fast too.
Awesome. Joe, you touched on a little bit in the future. It sounds like a whole bunch of states are about to go like dominoes for you. Anything else you want to add to that?
So, for me, in 3 to 5 years, Brian, I want to exit the company. I want to come back as an EIR and continue to harass you. That's what I
love
want
it.
right there.
Love it. It
Arizona's,
doesn't pay well, Joe.
That's true. Arizona's been great. We worked with Disca as a technology company, and Chad has been amazing. And Chad just has a big heart and just gives and gives and gives. So I highly recommend anybody looking for a company to seek out Chad and his group. For me, demand generation would have been great. Not saying that there wasn't there, not saying I didn't go out and try to find it. I probably could have done a better job. But having articles written for you or about you or with you about your product, it's different than product marketing, right? Yeah. Demand generation, having that in Forbes that goes across the country. You can pay for that in Forbes, but as a startup, we don't have the money, but Brian does, So demand generation was something that I would say, let's really look at that and really, really highlight that for the startups. I think it'd be key.
That's great. That's great advice, and we'll look into that. Consider that. Joe, you've done this before. So last time through the team here, with a few minutes we have left, any words of advice? A lot of people out here really admire where you're at, or looking to do something, their own venture. Just anything you want to share with them to focus on. Words of wisdom.
Yeah, there's so many. I'm sure you heard this before, and I'll say it many, many times. Don't be afraid to pivot. Just because your idea, it was the original thought that you had, and you've seen this grandiose vision that's going to take off. But as you're walking down that journey, and somebody says, I think you might be better over here, listen to them. Doesn't mean you have to actually take their advice, but just listen to them. And then you start to see that there's more than just sometimes your tunnel vision that you have, and there's this whole big view that you can get of the world. And I think, that'll incorporate more of a successful business for you and a more of a complete business for you than just trying to push one feature at a time on top of each other.
I appreciate that. Lauren.
I have a few too, but I feel like my first and greatest one kind of just piggybacks off of what Joe said. Mainly, what I would say, going back to the 5-year plan, like if you have a plan and something doesn't work out, don't give up. That would be number one. Listen to the market, listen to your customer. Don't wait. Don't try to push. Don't work in silo. So don't say, this is what I think everyone needs and try to do it in silo. Like, yes, be creative, be innovative. Say, this is what I think people need. Test it. Be very agile, be very quick. I said we just released our commercial product in September. We've had a product since 2020. We had an MVP, we had a V1, we've had a V2. This is like, hey, it's commercial ready. We can sell to any and everyone today. But we built that with our customers. And so that's what I would say, like very much focus on listening to the people that are feeding money into you from a revenue perspective. I say that because you have investors and some have the best intentions, but want to make sure you're saying, hey, here's what the market's telling me. Here's what my customers are telling me. And then the other thing I'd want to state with that, just for advice, is that it's going to be hard and to make sure that you have support around you and a community around you that helps you during that. So I have 2 therapists. I have a life therapist. I have a startup therapist. I think that that's very important. I think it's very important to have a collective and a community around you that are founders, because if you don't, there's no one else who is going to understand what you're going through except other founders at your stage. And so I think that's very important. So support and listen to your customers and market.
And mom with 2 young kids, too, also,
yes,
right?
I have 2 kids, 7-year-old and 3-year-old.
A lot going on.
That's just hard.
Ayushi.
So I'll piggyback off Lauren's advice. I think the big one is network. So be it a network of investors, be it a network of customers, but I guess most importantly, a network of founders for not just the support that you need. Most days will be hard, and then you'll get a tiny bit of victory, and that keeps you going for the next 20, 30 rough days. But this founder community is also important to understand what is going on in the market, right? Like, what are the terms? Is the term sheet I'm seeing reasonable? Are there some loopholes that I should be aware about? And ideally, what you should also try is have a group of founder friends who are a stage or 2 ahead of you, who you can confide in and learn about what are the do-nots. More often than not, nobody can tell you how to run your business, but they can tell you their experience, and you can gather what we should not do that would definitely kill a business. So I think that's the first one. The other thing is have a very clear ask. Like, if you are bringing on a partner, be it an investor or be it a health system or a doctor, have a very clear ask, because it gives direction to both people. And now there's nirvana level clarity on what needs to get done to be at the next stage. And more often than not, the whole partnership dies down because you just don't know if there's an ask there or a sustained ask there. And we've seen that work very well, not just with hospitals, but also with investors, that, hey, when we're at XYZ stage, we'd like you to make this intro for us, or we'd like you to help us get this client, right? And the last thing I would say is this is all about working as a team, right? Most of the days will be very hard, so picking your co-founders that you can really ride through the rough days with. I have 2 incredible co-founders, and we talk extensively about what both of our personal lives, like what are our needs there, and how do we want to raise Sensen as a company. And as long as you guys are aligned and have a cultural fit to a point that it's second nature, a lot of things get easier over time, because it all comes from a place, a lot of love and respect. So that's what I would say.
Fantastic. I think we've taken all the time. I just want to say so much respect. We're only successful when you are, so it is such a privilege to work with you guys and many other companies. So much respect for what you're doing. We're in for the long haul. We got through the performance period, and I am going to nag you for some reports for the next couple of years, but we're in for the long haul. We want to help you guys exit or grow into huge companies. That's what we get satisfaction out of. That's what our job is, so I'm really grateful. And I'm grateful to all of you that have been partners with us, all the volunteers. Encourage companies thinking about starting ventures, come talk to the ACA. We'd love to help you. Grateful to our team. The team is here. If you have ideas about how we can do better at what we're doing, just pull me aside. Also, I want to point out Melissa is here, Shamay is here, Jason is here. There's lots of people from the ACA here, so pull us aside and let us know how we can partner with you or do better at what we're doing. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us, Brian.
You bet.